Welcome back to Utility Room Legends, the podcast where we highlight the innovators, operators, and quiet giants shaping the systems that move and control water. Before we jump in, quick thanks to everyone who's followed, subscribed, and supported the show so far. For anyone listening or watching for the first time, we're glad you're here and hope you enjoy the podcast. New episodes drop every other Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can also visit our website at utilityroomlegends.com for links, updates, and guest submissions. Today's guest is living proof that you don't have to be born into the water industry to become a legend within it. George Sigelakis is the founder of Sigelakis Systems and the inventor of the Spartan fire hydrant, a complete re-engineering of a piece of critical infrastructure often taken for granted that, for the most part, has remained unchanged for over a century. As Fast Company put it in a recent story featuring the Spartan Hydrant, this is the first major redesign of the fire hydrant in 100 years, and it's a game changer. But what makes George's story so compelling, and why we're so excited to feature him, is the fact that he does not have a degree or background in engineering or product development. He was a New York City firefighter. George saw firsthand the failures of outdated hydrants, rusted parts, strip bolts, and street flooding from equipment that hasn't evolved since the horse and buggy days. So he decided to do something about it. In this episode, we dive into how George took an idea from a firehouse frustration to a patented, American-made, high-security, fully encapsulated hydrant that's now being adopted in major municipalities and U.S. military installations as the only fire hydrant accepted in the system. We talk about the resistance to innovation in legacy systems, the challenges of manufacturing in the U.S., and what it takes to stick with a vision that took over a decade to break through. You'll hear George's passion, his frustrations, and his relentless belief that we can do better when it comes to protecting communities. This is why we call it Utility Room Legends, because legends like George don't just accept the system, they change it. Let's get into it. All right, so we're live now.
Okay.
Cheers, George. Good to see you.
You too.
Nice to have you in town. So let's... Why don't we go ahead and get started and just have you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is George Sigelakis. I'm from New York City. I became a New York City firefighter, and I figured out how to make a better fire hydrant. And so I'm sitting here today with you to talk about how all that started, I guess.
Yeah, let's start. When did you become a firefighter? Was it just
Back
like,
in 1988?
88?
Yeah.
Just like every other kid, want to be a firefighter?
Yep. Yeah.
Firefighters get the
And
girls.
I always liked fire.
What kid doesn't, right?
Yeah, I live on a beach.
Did you come up to the mic?
I live on a beach, and the driftwood and stuff.
Yeah.
Build in the daytime. I'd collect all this wood and build a big giant hole and light up the whole block with the fire. When I was young,
You're pyro.
I was a little bit of a pyro.
Most of those firefighters are. I was in the Marine Corps. You got the fire dogs. Those guys are all pyros, man.
Yeah, I think it's human nature. Man has always been intrigued by fire.
Absolutely, it's cool.
Hypnotizing.
It's cool, and it's crazy how fast. Yeah, I mean that's one.
Right.
I mean you know when you're a kid you hear stories, or even now you hear stories about wildfires and losing 5-10 guys lose their life. Yeah. And you wonder how that happens, and you once that thing gets going,
people
you get
don't
wind.
realize, how it's a very powerful source, and it can do good things and it can do very bad things, and you have no control over it.
Right.
Even it's good. It's you can have a lot of knowledge about it, and even then you can do all the right things, and it could just take you out, in a blink of an eye. So.
Yeah. So 1988, you started out.
Yes.
So that would have been 9. I was actually my dad, I was a military brat, but we lived in Boston area, outside of, you remember as a kid growing up, going to, a couple times we went to like a reenactment, the Battle of Lexington. Yeah, that was cool. But pretty much after that, I spent most of my time in the West. But so 1988, so you were a firefighter, and how long did you do that?
Almost 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah. And then I had a lot of injuries, so it kind of saved my life in a lot of ways, because I had 6 knee operations, and And they said, you know, it's not, I wanted to keep working this. It's not you, it's your physicality. Even though you seem good, you're not where you were. You had all these injuries, and you're jeopardizing the other people's lives. So
Sure. Yeah.
they weren't going to let me go full duty anymore. So then they put me, and then 9/11 happened,
Oh.
and 11 guys died in my firehouse.
Oh.
And then we were there for 6 months digging on the pile, digging people out, finding people. It's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But, you know, God had his reasons for me not to have been there, and that enabled me to finish inventing the fire hydrant that I had in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were already, by that point, you were already out of normal duty because of injuries during 9/11. So that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was there. I went there immediately
Yeah,
that
you
morning
bet.
before they
Sure.
even called. I knew they were going to need
Yeah.
people down there, and so I went down there, and it was like the end of the world.
Yeah. That's a day that's in a way isn't had an impact. Even though the two of us sitting here at this table, right? I mean, that changed my life too that day because, well, for that day I wouldn't have been deployed in 2003.
Right.
Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps then. My wife still remembers. I remember waking up and seeing the TV, and of course here it was still somewhat early in the morning for us. And and I got up and said, "What movie are you watching?" My wife said, "It's not a movie." And I just immediately started getting my gear, like making sure I had stuff in case we got called back to duty.
Beautiful day, clear skies, and I get a phone call from my brother, and he said that the plane just hit one of the buildings in New York. I turned the thing on, and then I saw the second plane fly in, and I watched that, and then I knew they were going to start needing a lot of people down there to get involved. So without people telling me, I knew right away just to go down there. And
you had houses lost. The firehouses. Some of the units there lost everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were one of them.
11.
We have the picture from the Daily News driving to the death. You know, the tiller rig. They had that on going over the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was that. And
Like you said, God had other plans.
God had other plans.
And
it's been a journey. So actually what happened now, when the first year you become a firefighter, you're on probation and you're wearing this orange plaque so that they know you're...
Yes, everyone knows you're the dunce. Let's stay away from this guy.
Yeah, he's learning pro me. I hated it. It was kind of embarrassing, but so they put you in with somebody. I had this guy, Vinny Caruso. He was 30 years on the job, and he was teaching me the ropes and stuff. And one day we're in the projects, and he's telling me how in all those 30 years, no one's really ever been able to come up with a way to stop, because they were playing with the fire hydrants, with the water running all over the place. Yeah. And he goes, in all my 30 years, no one's ever really come up with a way to stop it. And I'm looking down at it, and it was a Smith hydrant, and it's got the bonnet, and it's got the operating nut. And around the operating nut, the shape of the bonnet has like this metal circle around it.
Yeah.
And it's in my head, it popped into my head. Well, that's the main target to open water. You have access to the operating nut.
Absolutely, yeah. So
I'm looking at that thing, and I said, well, if that thing was up over past the operating nut, they wouldn't be able to put wrenches on there to open it. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. But then you could like take a socket and stuff, probably and knock down on it and stuff. So you needed to do something with that too.
Because anyone can open a hydrant.
Because anyone can open a hydrant, and you have to get to the operating nut to do that.
Right.
Besides all the missing caps, the bent fittings, people don't realize that the damage it causes when they tinker with hydrants when they're not supposed to be touching them.
Yeah.
And they either lose the caps, or when they're missing, then people bang, dent, or cross-thread the threads and stuff, and then they strip the operating nut where the wrench no longer works. All kinds of different issues, and then debris inside it.
Yep.
In my head, I just saw this thing that, here's what I immediately saw it by encapsulating. I grew up on the beach, and a clam protection is it locks itself within, and the only real predator that gets to it is like a starfish, because a clam is a mussel, and the starfish gets on top of it, and then just keeps constant pressure, and eventually the clam gets tired and opens up, and that's how it gets it. But otherwise, so that's kind of where I got the idea to. I called it the clamshell locking mechanism I created. But it turns out, in the long run, I ended up shelving it because, as a firefighter, I thought all the problems with hydrants was on the top. What I saw, the missing caps, the bent fittings, people throwing garbage and debris inside their baseballs, and all kinds of different things. So you're trained when you first get to a hydrant, you got to open it up and flush it to make sure everything's out of there, which slows you down. And then on top of it, now it's a loose fitting, it's a bent fitting, it's damaged, and you can't put a cap on it. Causes all kinds of issues. So a hydrant has a lot of vulnerabilities. And so I realized, you know what, if we encapsulate the hydrant, where they can't do that, that's going to solve the problem. And then when I first started how this evolved, I went in my basement and I used clay and things to form the shapes and stuff I wanted to do. And that was a New York style hydrant. And then Chicago was interested. They heard about my what I was doing, and I went there to show them my hydrant. But when I was there, I saw how different their hydrant was.
Yep.
So the Spartan Sigelakis hydrant, from that moment on, in my eyes, I envisioned how to merge the two things together, take the best things out of both, and make the hydrant I made today. And I would at night in the firehouse when people were sleeping, I was sitting there sketching and drawing shapes and things that to how I wanted it to look.
This is still 2000s time, like 2000.
Back in '93 maybe, but like I said, but when I first became a firefighter, I didn't do anything with this idea for like three years until and then my wife said to my sister, had a fiance that they would be getting married, and she started telling him about this idea I had, but he doesn't want to do anything with it. And I said, I don't want to start, because when I start, I won't stop.
Right. I can relate to that.
And I said, and she said, why? Because people talk a lot of talk, but then when it gets rough, they disappear. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. And then I just stuck to it. And after going to Chicago, I saw a different way to make the hydrant. I went to actually, because I to show them my idea. Yeah, so that's where I was in this huge, long desk with all these engineers and stuff. Yeah. And I was trying to explain my concept and I didn't hear from them for like two years. And me and my wife get off the plane at Dulles Airport, and all of a sudden I see what it's called now, which was my idea. And my wife's like, look, they stole your idea from you. I said, you know what, it's a good thing, Michelle, because at least there's a need for it. But that thing really was not, the way they did it was a total mistake. It's easy to break into. It was, I was trying to show, the concept of what I really had is what I ended up creating myself, the clamshell locking mechanism I designed.
Right, so there's a need for it, but it doesn't. It's just kind of like a Band-Aid, right? Put a Band-Aid over a cut. Right. We'll just kind of address it. Right. But anyone can use pry bar to get into it. You got locks. I know back during when the DNC had their convention, I think it was when Obama was accepting the nomination for president in Denver, they spent time putting locks on every single hydrant, right? Because most people don't realize it's a vulnerable. I mean, it's access. Right. Right. That's what a fire hydrant is. And when I talk to the water department, and, of course, the water department always gets mad about the firefighters because they tell them they're slamming the hydrant shut, right? And I always tell, so if I'm talking to a water system and you have the fire department there or firefighters there, it's like, hey, for these guys, the fire hydrants, it's a tool. It's a valuable tool in the distribution system to do maintenance for water quality. It's a valuable tool. Then I go over to the water guys, right? Hey, these guys don't give a shit about your tool, and you don't want them to. Right. To these guys, this is access. This is life-saving, critical access, and they need it to operate. Right. And they need it, and they need to rely on it. If it's your family, do you really care about that tool? Right. right? If it's your family's in there, you got after what is it? How long before you start doubling in
Like
size?
that.
5 minutes or what?
Yeah, yeah. After 2.5 minutes,
2.5
doubles in
minutes
size.
doubles. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
every second. Yeah.
so yeah. So you realize. You had an idea for like what ended up being the. So what did you do there? Did you not go in? Did you realize then the importance of NDAs too? Non-disclosure agreements when you sit down with the manufacturer.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, did you learn that one?
Yeah, I was green. I was young, and I thought, you know what? I got this great idea. Let me go to the who makes the best, most and best fire hydrants out there.
That's the reputation. Yeah.
So then,
Well, but like we talked about, right? I mean, I guess everything happens for a reason.
yeah,
Because then you said, well, at least there's a need.
right.
Now I can go back to work on.
Do
So
it.
this is before the clamshell design. Because you had just done looked at some type of a locking mechanism, right? Is that?
Yeah. Well, no, I had it. I had the clamshell design in there. I didn't talk to them about that part of it. I just told them how to protect the operating
The
nut.
operating nut, yeah.
They didn't see where I was going with that. So then I met a man named Ira Wender who he was about the age I am now when I met him. He lived to 93, and he realized, he liked my product, and he kind of like helped me develop it and protect me. And I was getting multiple patents on this, and I knew I had something good because the patent attorney wasn't charging me any money. He just got a small percentage for how this was going to turn out.
That's typically a sign, right?
Which is a good sign that I got something here. They wouldn't be doing something like that. So he got involved, and he was intrigued by the locking clamshell mechanism. So we developed. They said, do we save the money to develop this, or go after and sue him for copying what I did? And he said, let's lose the battle, we'll win the war. And use the money.
That would have been a long battle.
Yeah, and you're right, and I would have never went anywhere.
Yeah.
So the smart thing to do was just learn your lesson from that, move on, and he helped me develop the clamshell locking mechanism. So that was the top part. So then I started saying, okay, because I just developed the top of the hydrant with the bonnet with that locking mechanism.
Right.
And it was pretty clever how I did it, but it was all about the top. And I live in New York City, but Long Island, they had like 60 to 80,000 hydrants. And Herman Miller was his name. He was the head of the thing, and I showed, and he was impressed. He says, "You got a great idea here, but that's not where our real problems are." Because at the time, I only had half the hydrant, and I was trying to get it to one of the major hydrant companies to sell it to them, or get them to, adapt to the top of my hydrant.
So you're still looking at everything still
At
from
the top.
from a view.
And
of
he
a
goes,
firefighter.
"Here's our real problems. You got a great idea here, but that's part of the problem. The biggest problem is down below.
Yeah.
You can stop the leaking, the freezing, the tree roots growing in there, the water hammering, those kind of things. We'll be interested." And I was trying to raise money to do things, and my investors, a couple of days I sat thinking about all the problems they had, and I came up with the idea of the try-on valve that I was going to create. And when I did that, I went to a place because I needed to make like the gasket part of it, the seal.
Yeah.
And it was a place in Connecticut where they do plastics and stuff like that. And he says, "Your thing, the way that works, smooth and stuff like that, you should use this thing called Delrin, because it's a really unbelievable product. It lasts long. It's way better than rubber or leather and all these different things."
And this is the oxymethyl.
Yeah. And you can't use it with brass and things like that, because it'll eat itself away. So you have to use like stainless steel, which is more expensive than the brass, but it's a better product and it's stronger in every way. And it turned out to work beautifully. But then I said to the guys, my investors, I said, "You guys, they thought I was going to spend the money on like trying to push this. But I went to." Said, "We have to go make the whole hydrant. That's going to make a success out of us." And I have this concept with this try-on valve, and then the saturation distribution plate. Because the other thing is, from dry barrel hydrants, they have a drain hole in them.
Yeah.
And the first 3.5 spins.
And so, for people that don't know on dry barrel, right? Everyone sees the movies and they see a car hit a hydrant,
Right.
That doesn't happen, right? The dry barrel hydrant, because you can't have a hydrant that's not charged with water.
Pressure, right.
Positive pressure. The hydrant is going to has to drain when you
Has to
close
drain.
it, so it doesn't freeze and
Right.
damage the hydrant, right?
So the sleeves, the arms, where the hole is, it goes up 3 inches.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, when you fully close it, it has access to the hole now opening, so water can drain out. And what I realized that with the other people, it's a certain little hole and it's exposed, and roots love water. So,
Oh, yeah.
So if any kind of plants and stuff are anywhere near this thing, the roots will seek the water, travel, and go towards where the water is. And the roots, because it's a little circle, it gets in there, and as it gets bigger and swells, it becomes like a cork and blocks the holes out. And you can't drain, and you end up with frozen hydrants and water in the barrel at all times.
And yeah, for anyone that doesn't believe that, all you have to do is, I mean, we look at sewer or wastewater. I mean, that is like the number one thing is root penetration.
Right.
It's your rotor-rooter, right? I mean, that's
Exactly.
where
And
you
the
go.
roots are they don't grow flat. So when you're a little kid and you're playing with blocks and the circles and
Right.
the squares and the triangles,
Yep.
I said, you know what? I'm going to make an elongated, larger, like slot type thing. So even if a root got in there, it can never block the hole.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, instead of 2, let me put 4. And then instead of 4, let me also build a chamber so it couldn't get in there.
Smart.
And
Right.
not be exposed. And it was simple. Just by casting and design, I was able to block out where the roots can never penetrate in there. And even if they did, it wouldn't stop the water flow. So that was just as important and significant as the Trion valve part of it. And from there, I'm saying, okay, hydrants also are made of steel and iron, and I know we go to hydrants and they're so rusted and rotten, they corrode. And you can be turning them, spinning forever, and they rot it out. So I said, well, lives depend on this, so let's put
Just make it,
stainless steel that's going to hold up on all these conditions and last 100 years and beyond. So, because lives depend on it and reliability, you don't want this thing to. When do you find out a hydrant don't work? When you go to use it. Okay? And the problem is if you don't use it, it seizes up and rusts and corrodes. And if you use it too much, because the valve itself is stable side to side, but when you open a hydrant, the ground starts shaking and stuff because it's not stable.
Velocity.
It's not covering a 360-degree circle. So, and that creates pulsations and stuff like that. And when you close it, and if you get closer to closing it, the pulsation, the chattering and stuff, you tend to want to even go faster.
Yep, because you've increased the velocity as you get closing. The people that don't have never felt it. It's
right,
scary.
and it's creating pulsation waves through there, and that's how they blow big water mains and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, I've done it in fields where I've done this with over 40 hydrants already with full speed. Opening and closing them, and because the Triumph valve covers all 360 degrees, so when the water goes through there, it doesn't shake or move, and it closes smooth and steady transition. So it doesn't matter, in my opinion, how fast you close it. And I've done it on videos where I showed me doing this at lightning speed, and nothing happens in the high pressure areas too. So I realized then that this thing severely reduced water having, not totally eliminating. But again, I'm a small company. I don't have millions of dollars to do the research type stuff, but I physically did it on my own.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest advantage to that design is reducing the chatter, the vibration that everyone who's operated a hydrant knows is there. They felt it, and people don't realize the amount of force. If you have
tremendous.
if you have a 6-inch, a 6-inch line, which is what your hydrants are going to be connected to, a 6-inch main. So at 6 inches, at about 100 psi.
The square inch.
You're dealing with 6,000 to 7,000 pounds of force.
Right.
That's at 105. I mean, we have areas in Colorado that I've been in areas in excess of 250 psi, around water mains.
And you can push up cars going by, which literally probably push it right across the road.
So 6 inch at 200, is at 200 psi is 13, 14, 15,000 pounds of force. It'd kill you. It's deadly. And that's, so to me, that design is that's a critical component. So that, because the reason why your firefighters would tend to, anyone really who's ever operated a hydrant, or been around when you get that vibration, that chatter, it's frightening. Your first instinct. I've been around it when you're not supposed to slam a valve closed, and we work on control valves and PRVs, and you see high pressure, and you see that pressure climbing, and your immediate reaction is to close it now, right? And so that becomes damaging to the rest of the system as you send that shock wave down, and then that force just goes back and forth. But yeah, that's, to me, that's a huge benefit. And then I think also with having that Dell ring and then having the to use stainless steel by default, you stay away from the same materials that are in conventional hydrants that we know that when you look at dissimilar metals.
Right. That's probably why they don't do it too. I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of like, is it like in the car business? Well, I spent 12 years in the car business, and I used to always tell the manufacturers when they come in, I'd say, we all want to know when you guys had that meeting, like the Ford, Chevy, and the Dodge guys all get together, right? Like, what meeting? The meeting that happened, that didn't happen. The one that like everyone says like, we all know we can make the 1,000,000-mile motor that doesn't need oil, right? Mm-hmm. But we all know we're not going to do that, right? The amount of parts that go in. If you look at, we just looked at this, there's approximately 9 million hydrants, estimated 9 to 10 million fire hydrants across the country. Right. Any water utility system is going to have spare parts and components for those fire hydrants, right? Yeah. We saw, and these were the responses that were provided by the hydrant manufacturers back in 2013 or so, when the EPA was looking at after backflow devices had to be exempt from low lead or lead-free requirements. Yeah. These answers, this is not some secret. These answers were provided by hydrant manufacturers as to why it would be costly to, which they ended up getting.
It's all about the nickels and dimes there.
No, that doesn't sound right. Come on. Now you sound like a conspiracy theorist. That's how my dad, the difference. The difference is between a conspiracy and fact is about 3 months.
Yeah. Well, I'm disrupting the system a little bit. What I've done is eliminated a lot of issues and parts in that. Try to make the hydrant as simple as possible and very robust, and putting in materials that were going to last a long time. And you didn't have to worry about whether that hydrant was going to work or not when you go to use it.
Well, it's bullshit, because we know, it. So here's how you know it's bullshit, is because the same manufacturers that make a fire hydrant, they also happen to make the valve that precedes it in the line right in front of it, which is also your gate valve. Mm-hmm. Then they also make valves that are also in the system, your check valves, right? Well, and let's not even talk about the fact that that fire hydrants aren't required to have check flows, cross connection. Right. So any access point in every state and municipality has adopted pretty much backflow requirements, cross connection control. And a cross connection is any connection, right, that is access to drinking water.
Right.
A fire hydrant is a connection point, is a cross connection.
And they can contaminate it.
You can contaminate it very easy.
Right.
If you watch. So how many people do you think? And I can tell you from experience, from working some of the other manufacturers that I think have some really cool technology out there. But whether you're looking at acoustic listening and devices that go onto hydrants to listen, right? So you have to access these hydrants. I can tell you from experience. How many people you'd be shocked that nobody says anything with a guy with a hard hat and a vest that's opening up a fire hydrant. No one doesn't think really about what type of contaminants are pretty accessible. And I really don't want to get into it too much, because you're providing, a reason as to why. It always is a subject. But you open up a fire hydrant.
Yes, see, this is where I got to.
And when you close, well, everyone should. I mean, but it's also a point where at what point is there not a concern? Because if I told you that I had if I told you that I had a connection to water and I was running a paint factory or any other type of chemical, right, and that water I could cause a back siphonage in anything that I had that's connected to that contaminant, right? If that back siphonage, that event, which is documented, happens. I mean, when you look at 2013, I believe, right, you have a hydro seeding company hooks up to a fire hydrant in Spokane, Washington, accidentally reverses backs the pump, pushes pressure back, and ends up having an E. coli outbreak in the system, right? Gets people sick or causes sick or death. I mean, that's
all they have to do is they can take one hydrant, pour the poisonous chemicals in it, close it up, go to the next hydrant down the road.
And you don't even have to do that.
And then pulls it right.
You don't even have to do that. If you just open it and leave and walk away, at some point, if you do that at 4 o'clock in the morning, at some point you're going to have demand. Whenever you have demand that increases, then you're going to have.
So the reason hydrants never really changed because the business model, in my opinion, works perfectly for them. Because once they have that hydrant buried in the ground, see, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but they kind of own you, and that's why they create the bonnet. And then you down the road when you go do the parts, it's actually more money than the hydrant started off with. But the real expense is digging it up and taking it out.
100%.
And that was my frustration because I here's a hydrant I'm trying to offer you that once it's in the ground, you don't need to have a supply house full of parts and things like that because the hydrant itself is your bonnet. So if a car hits it and breaks away, 30 minutes later that hydrant could be the way I designed it and encapsulated, protected all the parts. You literally just can put it back together with the new breakaway flange and.
I'd wonder how many times. One study that I always thought you guys should invest in doing and that's pretty easy, is to actually do a damage at your normal, because most fire hydrants that they're damaged by cars, they're done.
That's the most.
They're done parking.
That's the most. Actually, that's where a lot of the most damage is.
Parking.
But the problem with the other hydrants is you put them in within a year, they're already leaking.
Well, and if you look at the material, right? So your conventional hydrant's going to be gray, what was considered gray iron cast iron, right?
Which can crack.
Because ductile iron is cast iron as well, but gray iron versus ductile iron, right? Ductile iron's 5 times stronger than gray iron. 7
times stronger, but also that's what gas pipes are made out of.
Right.
So they don't crack. There's not going to be cracks in it.
Have you done a study with, looking at, because most of the damage caused by vehicles, it's just like parking. Somebody's coming by and they ding it. You're going 1 to 3 mile, like a bumper, like 1 to 3 mile an hour.
Or they
ductile iron
damage the other thing is the side caps and they all stick out there. They protrude. So like you said, if they don't know they're damaging it, but they've already knocked the fitting loose and stuff like that. So now that's inoperable. It's very dangerous to try to operate with a hydrant like that. The other thing is everybody likes to take the caps off and they disappear. Yeah. So now it's soft brass. So anybody bangs into them, now you're bending the fittings. They're loose, and it's just even though you think it's working, it becomes dangerous.
Well, there's some design flaws that are just stupid when you look at a conventional if you look up. So when I was first introduced to the Spartan Hydrant in 2013. And I remember when we looked at the hydrant, there were several people, but see, I was new. If you would have asked me before I got in this business where water came from, I would have told you the faucet. And so looking at it, though, from the eyes of almost everyone at that time would go, it's just a fire hydrant, it's just a fire hydrant. But when you look at the issues and the same reasons, so if you really want to get all the way down to brass tacks and basics, the fire hydrant's a valve. It's a linear motion valve, isolation valve. That's all it is.
It is.
Okay, provides
very
access.
Simple.
Okay, so we put better components and materials in every other freaking valve in the system than a fire hydrant. So if I looked at a butterfly valve right now, I'd tell you it's ductile iron, not cast, not gray iron.
And what I did is I improved I saw the flaws in these. It was a great idea in the beginning because we started with the wooden, the fire plug. So, but then we came up with this hydrant but they never advanced it.
It's basically
and they
unchanged
didn't
since
wanna advance it.
1860s.
Early. So, and they didn't want to change it because they realized this is a big money maker. Once they're in the ground, now we can, when they want to fix the parts, they become more expensive than the hydrant itself. But no one's going to dig, at the point they were like, no one's going to dig up a hydrant because now you got to get back permits, open up the sidewalks, streets. You got to get big equipment, a lot of guys, and you got to pull it out. It's like,
It's really not that freaking complicated nowadays.
But it's very
that doesn't
expensive,
make it is. It is.
It's
Well,
very costly,
when you dig, right? When you dig, any municipality's biggest
the permits
expensive,
and all of
right? Their biggest expense is people and electricity or power.
Right.
Okay, so when you're installing a hydrant, you're using people.
And this-
There's a reason why hydrant manufacturers are going to go in and say you only need 2 people to install this hydrant instead of 3 or 4.
Right.
Because they know it's saving.
So that's
costs.
what my frustration is, because they don't look at my hydrant should be twice the price for all the things I do, but
Correct.
we stay competitive with them, and they're getting a superior product. And
You're beyond competitive
they,
when you
but,
look at the
and they
materials.
go by the bidding. It's the way the system's set up. I had to learn all this because I didn't know. I was a firefighter. I didn't know nothing about all this stuff. But the way it's set up, even though they're giving you a hydrant at a certain price, then you got to buy their parts. That's not part of that bid.
No.
You see, but that, and then to maintain that stuff and keep it, and I'm like, my hydrant, you don't need to do any of that stuff. So my hydrant's cheaper every way you look at it. It's way cheaper hydrant in every way. And by fortune, we'll get into the story about how things started going in my way. We used to go to very few shows. And then we used to go up to Saratoga for this show every year because it was Long Island people were there. And this year that there was a year when we were supposed to go, and because again we didn't have a lot of money, they were going to skip it. And they didn't want to tell me. So I found out a couple of days before the show that we're not going. I said we need to go to that show. I don't care what. So we end up being able to get in there. We put in the back corner. And that's when my fortune changed, because these people that came from, it's now Veolia, but before that it was Suez.
Yeah.
And
the contract water operator.
A couple of younger guys, and they came to this show, and they couldn't believe what they saw. And they gave me a shot, and they've been with me ever since, and they love the product.
And that means in Suez, that's a contract operator, right? They're basically hired to operate a system.
They're a private water
Yeah,
company.
okay.
Yeah, they maintain them. And,
well, I mean, it's obvious as to why they saw the benefit.
yeah, and they saw that the cost. So that's what always.
If they maintain a system, they know their biggest expense is wasted on maintaining a freaking product that shouldn't need to be maintained. If I went and bought a brand new F-150 tomorrow or Dodge Ram 1500. And I went and bought the truck, and I'm signing up in finance department, right? And I'm getting ready to leave in my brand new truck. And right before I get out, they're going over all the features of the truck, and the salesman goes, "Oh, by the way, here's a list of all the parts you're going to need in the next 2 years. How good do you feel about buying that truck?"
So now you're getting me waking. I'm waking up to all of that because I kind of could tell you in detail. So anyway, a lot of things with UL, this and that. It took years before they were going to allow me to even put this hydrant together, because you said your operating's not sticking up. You don't have chains on your hydrant. And I said, well, those are the problems. This eliminates all that. And they kept me out of even trying to sell my hydrant for a couple of years, which could have bankrupted me.
Yeah.
But I stayed with it, and because I have a great product, it pursued that. Again, like I say to a lot of people, I'm a gladiator. I'm not a senator, and I was a kid that hid in the back of the classroom, not wanting to say anything. And and I get it, and that's my personality is that type of thing, and I'm kind of shy, and I don't like to talk. But when I get going, I can talk. But I don't want to get myself in trouble because I'm very honest. I don't lie. I don't deceive people.
You be you.
I gotta be me.
That's why I know Brent's told you that, and I've told you that.
Yes.
You be you. That's what.
But my son doesn't believe it, does he?
No,
But
my son
okay.
doesn't. I got an 18-year-old. He don't believe a lot of the shit I tell him.
Yeah, right.
But
we were the same way with our
but guess
parents.
what? He will when he's older. When he has kids,
He'll
you go,
see.
I get it
learn,
now.
Right, yeah.
My dad does that too now. I'm like, I realize, what? Maybe my dad didn't know a lot more.
Right.
And but you be you. That's what got you here. That's what got you.
Honesty is the best policy. Values, principles.
You know what the best part about being honest is that you never have to worry about what did you say, cover it up. I learned that a long time ago in sales. And I tell anyone that has dealt The time that I've spent in the sales side of whether it's the car business or in water, and I don't even really I don't look at it as sales.
Right.
I really just try and learn what somebody's pains and what the problems are, and then how do we solve it? How do we find something?
You want to be careful what I'm saying because I'm not knocking the people that made their hydrants. I get why they did it, but what I've done is I did it for humanity and people, even the poorest people, whatever little they have, they lose it in a fire.
Yeah.
And this is good for. They could spend the money in other places. They don't have to keep wasting money on something they know is not going to work most of the time. And the other thing I was going to say about it, the reason this works for them, even if something bad happens, how many fires are there a year? How much damage is versus them finding out with broken hydrants and it didn't work?
Yeah.
So the lawsuits, in my opinion, it pays for them to keep doing what they're doing because they're making billions of dollars. And so whatever problems there are, it's very minimal compared. This is my own opinion of what, and that's not what I want. And that's what my partner saw. He said, this is something we're doing good for people because, there's so many things that society wants to do for people, but it becomes too costly and so they don't look at the long term. But by eliminating, first of all, what I was going to say is, in the water department, they have bigger things to do than mess around.
They shouldn't have to.
Hydrants are a nuisance. They got these big water mains and things they need to do and change.
And they got other compliance and EPA regulations they got for these guys. George, if I took you to some of these places in Wyoming, you got 3 guys and 2 of them are volunteer firefighters in their communities, and they're running systems. And they have to do valve rotations.
See, this is what you know a lot more than me, so I like that you're.
These guys, and I don't, these guys have to do more with less. Most people don't understand the water, and that's why it's important that we get younger people into the industry, like your son. It's important, but it's also good to understand what the needs. When you go in, what I look at is there's good manufacturers and bad manufacturers. It's not knocking the manufacturers. What I tell people is one indicator of a bad manufacturer may be, why should I do business or why should I buy your product? Because we've been doing it for the last 150 years and our name's blah, blah.
This is why I'm proud to be here with you and because what I did is good, but the water system's a lot more than me, and the fact that you show that you like and see my product makes me feel good. And you know a hell of a lot more about the benefits of this thing than I can probably even say to you. And that's been my frustration. That's, and I'm glad that I've met you and you've been trying to help me every way possible.
Well, I've been around that hydrant since 2013. That's 12. I'm going on 13 years.
You're right. And the weakness is me and how I market it and stuff like that.
No.
If I had a very wealthy person backing me, this could have happened a lot sooner. I've done this on how I've done it on fumes.
George, I don't know. There's way too many products that never even come to light. But this industry is very slow to adopt change, and this is the thing that's going to have to change. So here's the raw facts that people don't want to know. The raw facts are 6 billion gallons of clean drinking water every single day is gone. Right. Do we or do we not care about water conservation? Because municipalities and cities that put up their hashtag water conservation, hashtag. Providing protecting our assets and blah, blah, blah.
And a subtle little, you look at my height, it's like the Movado watch. This should be in the Museum of Modern Art because but people don't realize, every movie, if you watch movies, hydrants are always in every, you don't realize how big a hydrant is in our society.
We'll take 10 million, take 9 to 10 million and multiply that number by, let's just go ahead and say roughly $3,000 to $5,000. So that'll give you an idea of why.
And here's the little subtleties. First of all, it looks beautiful. Okay, the design of it, but it also makes sense. It's like plumbing, the way the water flow goes. But also, nothing's protruding. A lot of people have died slipping on ice and falling into a hydrant.
Or bikers.
And it's like a grappling hook, and when it crushes their skull, goes through it and kills them. This thing is smooth and round. It's not going to hurt you in any way. And even when it hits things, it doesn't do any real damage to anything. And it's very strong. Because it's like if you hold your arm out, it's easy for me to bend it. But the closer you pull your arm in, the harder it's going to be for me to bend it. And that's kind of what I did with my product. I brought everything inside and encapsulated. So if a car hits it, it does not damage any of the fittings. It doesn't damage any of the parts of this hydrant.
Other than what the breakaway is supposed to do, the flange breakaway.
Yeah,
you
but with a regular hydrant,
yeah.
when that thing breaks, all these things, they bend, break, crack, whatever. No, the fittings get busted. You can't replace. You have to replace the whole.
Well, and that
pipe.
comes into the whole the fact that it's more brittle.
More brittle, right? They crack, right? Yeah, but ductile iron is really it's Malibu. It's like the gas pipe fittings. They have to be like a ductile iron because the slightest hairline crack, a gas could kill people.
Yeah.
So they know that pipe will never crack. Like if it was cast iron, a lot of people would be dead if they were using for a gas pipe. I've been doing this for perseverance and tenacity. I started this thing almost 31 years ago.
Yeah.
And
to me, that's what I love that story. I love seeing, it's been hard to watch some of, in the past, it's like you go one direction as far as how to get something out into market, and then you're like, oh, that doesn't work. When do we kind of cut? What do they always say when you're fishing, right? It's like sometimes you just it's time to cut bait, right?
Yeah.
Cut bait and run and try and go a different angle. And, but going back is what I was saying is it's one of those things that this industry just does not adopt change. And it's and it has to change because the definition of insanity is doing the same damn thing over and over again.
The secret too is when you recreate things, a lot of things like when they started the space program, we got all these great things from that. That's what this hydrant started to create. There's so many things I have in my brain that I want to do. No other hydrant can do because everything they do is, and mine is hidden. Everything's buried. You wouldn't even know. You look up at the hydrant, you wouldn't know there's things in there that you don't even know that benefit society. But I don't have that kind. I wish like an Elon Musk or somebody with an entrepreneur that cares about the world. I see.
Well, not like you couldn't sell it. You could sell it right now. You could sell it right now.
Well, I wouldn't want to sell it.
To the guy that's going to put it in
somebody to bring me to that level because I've done this on my own, raising small amounts of money and not having all the right things, and it's frustrating.
Well, what do you think is going to happen if you sell it? If you did, what do you think would happen?
They may not do anything with it.
But if a city said it's going to, here's what it's going to require is that, and I tell the municipalities, manufacturers only exist to solve a problem, right?
And I solved it.
So you can't complain. You can't complain about any manufacturer that makes the conventional hydrant. You can't because you haven't asked them to change.
Right.
When you demand change, you demanded a change in butterfly valves and they did it. You demanded a change in gate valves and they did it. You demanded a change in they are the ones that determine where the industry goes. Right. It's their system. Their system's not owned by Kennedy. It's not owned by Mueller. It's not owned by Cloud. They own the system. Their responsibilities to their customers. Right? Not to mention, used to be, you want to provide the best.
Right.
Okay? And when they do it in a lot of other things. So do I think that if somebody demanded it that they would do? No, but right now no one's demanding it. So if you buy that hydrant.
It's going to come, you just opened up the thing I was going to say. If insurance companies, this benefits them because a building that they're going to pay millions of dollars to redo. Yeah. If they had gotten a hydrant that worked on the water faster, they would pay less damage. And people that live near hydrants, their insurance is a little cheaper than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many things we can sit here for hours. The benefits of what this hydrant can do, and people don't realize what a hydrant is till they need it. A lot of people don't realize, People say I didn't even pay attention. Now, when they see it, now everybody looks at fire hydrants, and just everything about this hydrant, it smells 21st century hydrant. It's just its time has come, and it needs to be done, and it's starting to happen. Like I said, we've gone back to Saratoga. We jumped away from it, but these younger people, they saw the value in this hydrant, and then he tested it for a year and a half, 2 years. Now they've had it for over 5-6 years, I think, and they love it. And hopefully it's going to grow throughout their system. And like you say, and right now, like when people get sued in fires, they really can't. They have no grounds before because all the hydrants have the same weakness and flaws. So, but now that my hydrant exists, and someone dies, and they can say, you know what, you chose to buy this hydrant, and if you had this hydrant, this thing wouldn't have failed the way that did. And they could probably sue for a lot more money, and that's going to wake up people's. And
that's already starting to happen.
And this is what I'm scared of. What I'm saying, I hope I don't get myself in trouble. I'm not trying to make anybody bad. This is part of what life is. My frustration is I'm doing something great for society, and I came from nothing, and like I said, I was a New York City firefighter, And somehow, through the help of a lot of different people, I've gotten to where I'm getting. And it's only because it's a great product. But yet, this is like the first time doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And sitting with someone that knows this industry a hell of a lot more than I know. And
I don't even know, there's too much to know in this industry.
Yeah.
It's all hard.
But it's a great benefit to society, and it's going to happen,
It has to happen.
I'll be the dead man on the wall as a founder, but like my aunt used to tell me, George, it's the journey, not the success. No. That'll come. Mm-hmm. And cherish the journey. And that's true. It's like my college education was.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to college for 2 weeks and realized I wouldn't do anything really. I was more of an athlete, and I thought I was kind of on the dumb side because of my dyslexia.
That's how
and stuff
I actually had similar. I always thought I was stupid.
Yeah, me too.
And then
this teacher
I went
saved my life. Realized that no, I'm actually bright. I could tell you the story. What one teacher told me. When my parents were divorced. Okay, I'm going to get a little personal now, a little bit.
Yeah.
My mother separated. It doesn't happen now, but my father they had 2 houses.
Yeah.
We had the one house, and then my mother was in real estate, and she wanted this other house. She didn't want to live there no more, so we ended up 2 houses. Then a few years later, they divorced. So my father gave her that house. He kept the other house, and then she packed up and moved to Maryland. And I remember him sitting in the street with all his kids disappearing. And so I was in the school, and English, which I never liked because of reading and stuff like that. But I would always sit in the back. And this first teacher changed my life, because one day she came to me after the class and said, I see you sitting back here, and it was a film we were watching, so I could watch the film, and then you have to write about it. It was the Iliad and the Odyssey, okay? So she said, I'm going to make you stay after school because I want to help you and teach you how to read and do things, because I see what you're writing, and you're just smart. You're not stupid.
Yep.
And so at first week there, I didn't do anything. So she taps me on the shoulder and goes, I'm trying to help you, and all you sit here and do nothing, and I'm going to keep you here anyway. You might as well try, because I'm only trying to. And the way she did it, it was nice. So she actually got me believing in myself, starting to read books and stuff like that. But then now I was at an age where me and my brother you just saw, we were the oldest of 5. And so we went back, and so I was just starting high school, and I was looking for a class. In English, they had a class with film. It was about the Holocaust and stuff like that, okay? But it was film, and I'm like, let me try to get to this class. And I ended up getting in the class. And it was all the smartest kids in the school. A month goes by, and we're watching all these films, and you have to write about what the film was doing.
Yeah.
And so when all of a sudden she pulls a seat up next to me. I'm in the back of the class. And she goes, you know what class you're in? I said, yeah, I'm in this film class. She goes, you see the people around here? These are the smartest kids in the classroom in the school, in the whole school. And she said, you know what? The things you write is much smarter than every one of these kids in this class. And she's the one that discovered that back now they would throw her in jail for what she did, but she wasn't. She was just a good person. And she said, can I take you? I want to take you to get a test with your eyes and stuff like that. Because she was ahead of her time. This is before people knew what dyslexia was.
Yeah.
And so she takes me to this place in Garden City, this specialist with the eyes, and I'm there for like 2 hours looking at all these different things. And I'm like, because I was a really good athlete. I was like, there's nothing wrong with my eyes or anything. I can see great. I play center field. I do this, and I can whatever. And finally, he did this thing, and he goes, what'd you see? And I said, you see all these lines. I said, really? I want you to just keep looking in there. I'll be back in a minute. 30, 40 seconds go by, and all of a sudden this big dimension came out of that. And he goes, if you had normal eyes, you would have saw that right away. This is why you turn words around this and that, and you have to read 3 different times, confused. You have dyslexia. And I had like an 80 average at school. He said, it's amazing how well you did in school having this thing. And there's a lot of great people. They said Einstein, I think, had dyslexia, a lot of different people. And she's the one that discovered that I had dyslexia. And then from there, at least you're aware of it, and I knew. And it made me feel a little better that I'm not, slow in the head.
It's a game changer. I mean, I went through the same thing.
But I was good at all the other, because I didn't do that. I was good at listening and hearing and visual And that's how I learned. I'm like, I don't know how I learned to read. I just did it that
You probably
way.
would have done well the same thing that. So I went into military intelligence, but I did it from a test, and the test was just, to me, it was easy. It was easy shit. It was like these patterns, and it's like, what's the next one, and just stuff. And so you get done, the guys, you scored, you scored in the 98th percentile, like above, almost the 99th percentile. You can do anything you want in the military. And we got this intel unit here. So I went, and so I was an imagery analyst, and I had a top secret, a TSSCI clearance. And the school that I went to, I can't remember how, I want to say it was 12 or 14, I don't know. It was a long time, the school that we had. But the best part is this: all through high school, I never did homework. But I aced every test.
Wow. So
I aced every test, but I never did homework. I just didn't. It wasn't important to me. I didn't give a shit about it. And I wanted to play football, and I was into girls and football.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah. So then I go to join the Marine Corps. Well, and they pretty much beat the discipline in you, which is great. So it gave me the confidence, the knowing that I already scored in that time. Well, then I go through that. I go to my intel school. And then at the time it had been, I don't know, I can't remember if any Marine, it was an Air Force school. I don't think any Marine had ever graduated. They had a commander's award. It was called the AETC Commander's Award for the top graduate of the Intel class.
Right.
And I can't remember if it had been years or even if a Marine had ever won it. And so I was dead set that I'm going to get that thing. Right. And did. But it was easy because that was something growing up. I was a military brat. I knew, I could. Jane's defense books were, the drawings of the planes. They were all I studied when I was a kid. I used to love that stuff. I could tell you, I could watch Red Dawn from the 80s and any of the planes, and I could tell you what it was. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have homework because everything was classified. So if you wanted to study, you studied in the skiff. Wow. So I never had homework, and then I just had to take tests on something that I thought was interesting. It was like right up my alley.
Right, everybody, my partner. So everybody has their gifts and talents.
Yeah.
Everybody, he was a boy genius actually, and he's a very wealthy guy. He graduated Harvard Law School when he was, I think, 14 years old.
Okay.
He just blew through everything. He was like a super smart man. He was Estee Lauder's personal attorney before she was even anybody, and he saw something in me and believed in me, and I'm here today because of him. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am right now. But he did as much as he could. He did.
I feel invested in you.
Time. Yeah, no. Like, you know what? And I think it's because you see I'm a real good person, honest person. But I'm not. You got to know me to like me. People misjudge the book by the cover. They think I'm this way, and I'm not. I'm actually a very decent, humble person.
And I bet what's funny and ironic is I bet if you went back in time, and you could meet the same people that started some of these companies that you get frustrated with, right? That have been around for so long, but their founders, these were guys like you. These were innovators. These were people that changed things. That went from we're going to do this, and you. It's hard to see it now, and that's ultimately what ends up happening. I mean, we represent a number of manufacturers that you look at like. I had it's a fun conversation with Eva Iron, and these guys invented the mechanical restraint. Earl Bradley.
Right.
Story out of a Quonset hut. The guy's making them by hand. First.
That's what makes America great.
Yeah, it is.
It's a common.
It's innovation.
A shot in life.
It's innovation, and when you stop innovating, you're done. And that's what we don't do. And we need innovation. We
need it to come back in all things. Yeah.
We need.
It's what made America great. That's the thing. The elites, they don't think they need it anymore, but they're dead wrong.
You always need innovation.
Exactly.
If you're not innovating, you're stagnant. If you're not moving forward, you're not growing, you're stagnant. We can't afford to be stagnant with the problem. 6 billion gallons.
People need to put in their mind, think the advancements of things, and you have to keep doing it. You can't become complacent, and you can't think this is it.
I'm sure you hate this phrase because I heard this so many times, the fire hydrant. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I go, it is broke.
It is. It's been broken. How many lives have been lost?
Been broken.
And how much expense with insurance companies? They should be paying attention because you know what? They're paying out a lot of building losses and personal life injury losses and they don't need to do it. Not with this. And it's such a simple.
Well, and even
thing.
more important than money, we don't need to be losing that. What's the acceptable risk loss of life? It should be zero.
Zero. And
That is-
my hydrant is the most simplistic yet most solid. In the firehouse, they call the GA approved. When I build something, it lasts like things that are there for 30 years that I built already. I built tables, I built equipment things where they didn't last a year before. I believe in do something once, do it right. And part of that, I remember years when me and my friend, we wanted to start to play golf, and I went and bought a cheap pair of golf clubs. Then I realized, you know what? I'm going to blame it on the golf clubs. I should have just bought the most expensive one right off the bat.
Then you would blame it on yourself.
And then I know it's me. It's not the equipment.
Right. You only got you to blame for that one.
Right. So, and when you're building, do it the right way. It takes it's actually faster if you do it the right way. My grandfather said, first look at the job, see it through all the way through before you even start. And slow, this is what I tell everybody, fast is slow and slow is fast.
Yep.
It's a tortoise and the hare story. But when you build something, if you start off right, it stays right. Yep. If you start off a little bit wrong, by the time you end, it's wrong everywhere and it's slowing you down because nothing lines up or works right. So it's critical to do things the right way. People think, because in the beginning they're beating me, throwing up sheetrock or something, and then 20 minutes later I got 5 sheets up, well, it's still on 1 or 2. And people don't realize. I try to teach my kids these things, the values and principles, and be honest. Don't be a liar. Have integrity and be loyal to, people are good, you stick with it. You don't, it's not about money. Don't ever let money rule you. If you do good things with money, that's good, and be a giver, not a taker. You feel a lot better because when you ask for something, they want things 10 times more in return. And it's just, and you don't feel good that way. My grandfather always said, be independent and try to do good things in life and be honest, and then people will respect you.
Well, I've had these conversations before in the past. Price of the hydrant, right? So you price it right, price it for what the value is, because it is. When you look at
we haven't done that though. We
haven't. It's been undervalued, right? Which, but when you look at it, ways it's like. The price should be the price. You talk about doing things honest, and there's a game that gets played in water that I think is disingenuous. Okay, when you fire hydrants, people look at. We talked about there's 10 million of them out there, 9 to 10 million. So when you're a small city, okay, we know there's a very, 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 very drastic price difference between what Lander, Wyoming would pay for a fire hydrant than New York City.
Right. This is the craziness, right?
And that difference might shock a lot of people. And I think it's horrible, and I think it's a terrible way. And I get when you have projects. You're talking about, hey, we're going to put in 1,000 hydrants today. Mm-hmm. But if XYZ City is going to buy 5 hydrants, and then Lander, Wyoming is going to buy 5 hydrants, just call them. That price should be the same, or pretty close. Right. Because I think other than that,
reason, there are variables that.
Well, sure, you may have but I mean,
that's why I'm not. That's why my son. He's like he said. He's the one that said.
Well, I know. No. I'm going to piss him off on this one. I know that he's going to get mad at me for that one. No, but I do agree with him on the fact that you price the hydrant right for what it is. I mean, look. A butterfly valve that has this ductile iron with stainless steel seat. All the right materials in it, right? Costs double what that last crappy version of the valve was, right? Right. So, and it's hard when you're trying to break into something, you're trying to start and get moving. But all I'm saying is once you do that, don't forget what got you to the dance. And remembering that.
Don't be greedy.
Don't be, well, I mean, and obviously,
it's never been that with me.
No.
I'm not.
But you just keep, that's why I say don't, when Brent and I tell you that, you remember, what you how you are is what got you here.
Right.
And
I'll never change that. And I try to keep my son. He's actually very good at what he's doing.
He's great.
He is right. We needed that.
Very bright.
And I'm good at what I was. But I was smart enough to. It's his life. It's him and my other son. I raised them right, I think. And they're men, and they want to be men.
It reminds me of you. I can see that.
So I back off. One day he's at that age too, where he wants to.
How old is he right now?
32. He just turned it on June 1st.
Yeah, no, it's like whenever. Yeah, I mean he's.
My father, I did it to my father. My father used to shake his head. You know, we do that, but it's the stepping. But I'm also, my father let us do it. He let us make a mistake. He just laugh and shake his head. And say,
I know where that one's going. Yeah, I know what's going to happen there.
You know, and in those days, like today, everything's the way. My father just gave you the look. So when I was real young, he established something. So when he gave you the look, and all my friends too, their fathers always gave them the look. We knew to.
Oh yeah,
you dad's right away. Yeah. He didn't have to hit us to do nothing.
Well, it's like, do you remember what we used to always tell, like, and I've told this Brent. You know, Brent can be an intimidating guy, right? But like Brent, it's like once I realized, kind of like my dad. You know, like what's the worst thing your dad could say? Remember when you were a kid? What was the worst thing your dad could say? Like was it like he'd yell, gets pissed off? What was the worst thing your dad could do to you? Say he wasn't mad, he was disappointed. That was the worst thing. Yeah. For kids saying, like, oh. You do that, you just.
But my father was good. He was a great man. He did raise us the right way, and you know how I got good kids. Not me saying, but people tell you.
Yeah.
And that's how you know. And I do. And my wife.
That's what I'm relying on with my son.
Yeah. And my wife, she's like, you married the opposites. I was like a crazy wife. She tamed me down. And she's never cursed in her life. She talks no louder than this. You know, and he's got the things I don't know when to shut up
To my son, I say I tell my wife he has the best and the worst of us.
Right, exactly. I showed him what not to be like, and she showed him what, and he's doing. I'm impressed with him. I'm proud of him.
He's good.
I don't mind sitting in the background because it's his time, not mine. You know, at the end I have the ultimate say.
Yeah, it's still your time. You got to see that go through. But yeah,
I do. But I'm giving him the rope. My father gave us the rope. He let us instead of no, you got to do it. I never ever did that with anything with them. And my father didn't do it with us. And so
he's capable.
Yeah, and you got to let them do it. They got to learn. The best way to learn is through failure or success. And he makes it, and he feels like he's earning it. He's not being handed it.
No. Yeah, I don't ever get that. No, he works.
Yeah, and he tells you, he goes, and
I know he works because him and I were on the phone with each other at about 1:00 going through a presentation. 1:00 in the morning my time, which would have been
he went learning. He learned pretty quick. He's learning quick.
Yeah.
He could have retired. He was doing commercial real estate. My partner told him, don't look for your father. Go out and work with other places because people aren't going to respect you if you don't. Learn and then come into the job and he's so right. And my son listened to that and took it, and that's what he's doing. And I'm allowing it. A lot of fathers wouldn't do that. They'd be like, I'm still in control, this and that. No, I didn't do that.
Well, it's like when I was in the car business, we used to have a phrase for the owner's kids. So we used to always say so I remember we'd have them come work with us and stuff. And some of these guys, I mean, it's not very many. It's a small. I can count on one hand the number of owners' kids that haven't destroyed their family's legacy.
That's the curse.
That's the curse, right? And so we used to always tell them, I'd be like,
narcissism.
No. We would say, you're going to be fine, man. You got a PhD. And they were like, no, I got a bachelor's degree. No, you have a PhD. Papa has dealership. You're going to be
just. Did you come from a lot of? Are you just by yourself as a child? Or
no, I'm the oldest of 12.
12. So they see.
Eight are adopted. Eight are adopted.
My mother's mother was from 13.
Yeah.
But I say to people, the kids that are just one or two, they don't. It's a curse. Yeah. I grew up. There was 5 of us, and we ended up with bookends 7. But you learn to get along. You learn to respect each other. You know, when you're by yourself, you think who you are. You know, the narcissism is built in. That's the curse of the rich. You don't know if they like you for your money or this, or also you're spoiled. You think you're better than everybody when you're not.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I never grew up with money. My dad was military. Matter of fact, when it was time for me to go, like I just joined the military. It was kind of ingrained, like you're going to serve. It never said, like my dad never said, you're going to join the military. It was just my brother and I. My brother was in Iraq at the same time. He was in Iraq in 2003 when I was deployed. So it was just that's how it was. And then, but it's funny because we can see, but it's not only just the ones with 2 or 3 kids. It's also the little ones. Like my dad cracks me up because I watch my dad do shit that he would never like. My siblings are all adopted, like I said. But the little ones, like at that point, you're like trying to correct shit, right? Like all the mistakes you made,
Right.
you think you made when you were a dad. When I try and tell them, like, you didn't make mistakes. Like, yeah, we all make mistakes, but it
It's how
made
you
me
learn
who I
from
was,
it,
right?
Yeah,
It's how you
exactly.
learn,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
I can see this difference as you go down the line. I mean, I'm grateful for it, but
Yeah.
it's like it made.
We need to course correct and get back to those kind of things. With people are
Well, I think it's changing. I hope we just want people with common sense. I mean, that's what this whole thing's about. Common sense. But the whole, like, even talking about the hydrant, it's common sense.
common sense.
It's common sense. You have access to drinking water. Protect it. Common sense.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You have materials in the water industry that have been brought up to their current times and materials. Right. 1860, 1870, 1880. Look at flight, an air balloon.
Right.
Okay. Now we're flying on jets.
Right.
Now we've been to space.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we still have the hydrant.
can't
so,
stop it
So
if
you,
you do
but
it, so-
you just so it's just common sense to put the materials and to continue to innovate.
Right.
If you don't do that, and here that's the bottom line is there is an issue, and I will give you this one last piece that I was saying with, and I think I might have talked to you about this before, was a gentleman who had worked for a very well-known manufacturer. And you see this now, which I think is encouraging. We talk about your son getting in the industry and how you're getting people who are younger, right? And so that, I kind of felt young, excited getting into this industry. And I look at these people who have been doing it for 30, 40 years. So gentlemen have been selling materials 30, 40 years, very well respected, very
Right. It's
connected to
just
fire
now starting
hydrants.
to change a little bit.
Very connected to fire hydrants. Retired, I want to say, let's just say, a few years ago. And he had been watching me talk about the Spartan at the time before Spartan Sigelakis hydrant.
Good name, right?
I like Spartan 300. Yeah.
That changed. That's the other thing. Sigelakis had
This is
to go.
Sparta.
Sigelakis had to go.
It's your name. But
You know
but
how
I
that
listen,
name came? Know how that came around?
What,
The
Sigelakis?
guys in my firehouse called because
Oh,
my
so
name's
you-
Sigelakis in the lock.
Lock.
Sigelak. That's we joke about it in the firehouse. It's a brotherhood. The fire. It's like
Oh,
a
it's like
family.
it's like the military,
So
right?
we're like this close to
It's
this
the military.
day,
Yeah, it's all about
I broke them. They didn't break me. It
Right.
took 10 years, because usually they break you down. And I was definitely a character. And anyway,
Well, the thing that what I was going to tell you is, a gentleman that's probably been doing it since before I was even born at the time, and I remember he'd watched me. He'd seen presentations. There was actually one time that he had seen a presentation that I had given on fire hydrants, and I had asked him straight up because I don't want to lie. I want to know if I'm spreading bullshit, right? So I asked him if over the years I'd asked him before and just given some input, and so. And again, not giving it, but finally retiring. And so the only thing I asked him at the end of it, because I'd spent a lot of time talking about trying to get the Spartan Hydrant out,
Right.
trying to get the news, trying to get people aware of that. There's a solution. There's better there's stuff that's out there that we've made, guys. And so I finally asked him, look, can you just I'm going to ask you one thing. Like, you're getting ready to retire. Here's the bone, right? Can you please tell me that there's a problem? The manufacturer knows there's a problem, but they're not going to do anything about it until it's demanded. And he said, I will plead the fifth on that, and I'll deny ever having said that. So hopefully to you, that tells you, sir, that what you've been doing and all your work, that, and you already knew this, it does solve a problem. And the answer is, it's not blaming, it's really until it's required.
Right.
And it's time's come. When you look at the how much water is lost,
right.
it's the time for it's come. And I think that you've solved a problem. I love working with manufacturers that take a need, find a problem, recognize it, and work to solve it. Right. And you've done that. And so I congratulate you for that.
I don't know. There's so much about that hydrant. It's like my baby. And yeah. I'm a perfectionist. And what I did is keep it simple, stupid. What I did is simplified it, but yet made it.
You're passionate.
And honest. I don't like liars, because liars, you get caught. It doesn't pay to be a liar.
No.
It doesn't pay to cheat
Just tell the
somebody.
truth.
Be honest, and it'll be the winner at the end of the day. And you maintain. I try to teach my kids integrity, honesty, morality, and respect, discipline, hard work. Coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Don't talk. Do. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Let your actions speak for yourself.
I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I think we covered a
You
lot.
think did all right? I don't know.
No, I think it'll be good.
Okay.
It'll be good, and we'll get you back on. So,
All right.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
welcome.
All right.
Okay.